We always talk about our relationship with Jesus and whether we've placed him at the center of our life. Today, let's ask the question, how is our relationship like with the Catholic Church? Do you love the Church? Do you have an ambivalent relationship with the Church? Do you maybe distrust her leaders? Every November 9th, we celebrate in the liturgical calendar St. John Lateran Basilica. So this is in Rome. This is important for the worldwide church because it's the Cathedral of Rome, and that is the spiritual heart of Catholicism. And Rome is the city where not just one apostle died, but two apostles, and including the first pope, St. Peter. Now, St. Peter's Basilica is more famous because it's the largest Catholic church in the world, and it's where the Pope lives. But theologically speaking, St. John Lateran's is more important because it's where the Pope's cathedra resides. So it's this marble chair, which is the ancient symbol of authority. So what's your reaction when you see these churches? So for some of us, we see beautiful symbols of our faith. Now others among us, we see that's a bit ostentatious. What does this have to do with Jesus? Now, we're not going to deal with all the aspects relating to this. Let's just focus on what St. Paul says today. He says, brothers and sisters, you are God's building. No one can lay any foundation other than the one that has been laid. That foundation is Jesus Christ. This is one of St. Paul's most important images. He's saying that the people of God is the church, and they are a building, and they are connected to Jesus because he's the foundation. So one Jesus, one building, one church, they're all connected. Now imagine, so here's our proposal today. To love Jesus is to love the church. If we love Jesus, we love the church. Now it would make sense if we haven't placed Jesus at the center of our life, we'd say, yeah, I don't love the church. That's logical. Now imagine if someone were to say, do you love the Canadian government? Do you love all of her laws? And everyone would say, no. And that would be a good answer because it's just a human institution. But if someone says, Jesus founded the Canadian government, well, then things change. So if we're going to trust the Catholic Church, somehow we want to establish a connection between Jesus and the church. And that would mean that part of her is divine. She's not just a mere human institution. So this is what St. Paul is getting at in the second reading. He says, do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you? Now, he's not just talking to one person here. He's talking to a group. He's not just saying the Holy Spirit dwells in your body, which is true. He's saying you are altogether God's building. And then, if anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy that person. For God's temple is holy, and you are that temple. So how is God's temple being destroyed? By division. Whenever people separate Christians from one another, the church is being broken down. And that is so bad, St. Paul is saying, is that whoever does that, God will destroy that person. At this time, what was happening is that the Corinthian Christians were starting to go into factions. Some were following St. Paul, some were following Apollos, some were following St. Peter, etc. And St. Paul is saying, no, there's just one foundation, you're all united, you are the church, you're founded on Jesus. And that means there's something divine about you. So this is part of why the examination of conscience asks this question, did I refuse to believe any official teachings of the church? So when we go to confession, we ask ourselves that question. Now, sometimes people, when we see this, we say, hang on, but what are the official teachings of the church? That's a good question. But this question is getting at something different. It's getting at something much deeper. It's getting at the question of trust. So, do you believe that Jesus is God? Do you believe he's perfectly loving? So do you trust him? And then, do you believe Jesus founded the Catholic Church? And if he did, would it be a most loving thing to do to protect her from teaching all error? And so when we start trusting Jesus, he's God, he founded the Catholic Church, he protects her from error, we no longer pick and choose which of her official teachings we're going to follow, because the trust we have towards Jesus, we extend that trust to the Catholic Church and her official church teachings. In 2014, Pope Francis used this analogy, famous. He said, if the first name is I am a Christian, the last name is I belong to the church. Again, they're connected. And he said, no one becomes a Christian by themselves. Would you agree with that? What he means is that we all came to Jesus through a Christian, through the church. We need the church to get to Jesus, and she is his body. So I'd now like to share with you a video from two of our brothers and sisters. It's a 6-minute video. It's about their journey to Jesus and the church.
All my life I was an atheist. I didn't believe in God, but something made me realize that there is something more than these worldly things. So I became a Christian sometime in 2021. So I joined the church of my wife, Christabel. And after that, last year, my heart got, I guess, pulled by the Holy Spirit to the Catholic Church. By definition, I am a Catholic. I was baptized a Catholic in a non-Christian, non-Catholic family. So I was never raised a Catholic, but it never clicked on me. Then when our eldest daughter was about to get married, I kind of reflected on my life, how fortunate I am, how blessed I am in spite of the imperfection of my being as a father, as a husband, severely flawed. I realized that there is good and evil in this world, but the most important thing, I realized that I was so blessed by God. You know what? I'm not saying this in front of her, but I was touched by God through her. She never gave up on me. She continued to pray for me, and finally, I decided to become a Christian.
I'm a cradle Protestant. I attended Sunday school, was always present during Sundays, and when we migrated to Canada, continued to attend a Protestant church here in Canada for 16 years. And I would say I'm a moderate Christian. I attend church service every Sundays. I volunteer in church, and I have a Bible study group, but something is lacking, and I don't know what at that point in time.
So I started to search. I started to read on about the Catholic faith. I even read on the Orthodox faith. And then one of my business meetings in Philippines last year, I met a business friend. We had coffee one time, and then I told him that I became a Christian, right? So he said, oh, congratulations. And he's a very devout Catholic. And in a very subtle way, he's not even pushing, you know. It's very gentle. So, why don't you take a look at the Catholic faith? And then he recommended a book that I should read, which is the book of St. John Newman. So I read that book. It's hard to read, but it opened my eyes to how the very beginning of Christianity, the church fathers. And then I realized that the early Christians were Catholics. So that prompted me to become a Catholic. Yeah.
So one time he just told me, oh, Chris, I want to try out the Catholic Church. So he asked some of our friends, and he was led to St. Anthony's. It didn't really impact me because he attended the 8 a.m. Mass, and I was still sleeping at that time. I don't even know he went to Mass already. Suddenly, one day, he just told me, oh, Chris, I want to become a Catholic. And then it kind of shocked me, like, what? Catholic? Because in my mind, Catholics will not go to heaven. That's what we were told. So that started me into looking at YouTube videos about the difference between Protestant and Catholic, because I don't really know what I really believe in. And then it was not hard for me actually, because I feel there's something lacking. And then he invited me, okay, why not go to church with me? Go to Mass with me.
So the process of getting my first communion was to go through the RCIA. I decided to pray the rosary. I really felt the love and intimacy of Jesus Christ when I had first communion. I was actually crying. I was longing for it for many, many, many months. It was one of the happiest days of my life to be finally in full communion with Jesus Christ, not only spiritually but physically.
So at the time when he wanted to be a Catholic, he invited me, "Oh, Chris, do you want to have daily devotion? Let's read the Bible together." When he said that, like, oh yes, I'm so excited because my husband now is leading. That was it. Okay, I'm sold. So he started like, "Oh, Chris, there's this Alpha. Do you want to join?" I said, "No, I don't want to join. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm so shy." "You don't need to talk. I'll do the talking." "But is that possible? You don't talk to the group?" "Yes, it's possible. Just don't talk if you don't want to talk." So I'm convinced. Like he tricked me. So I joined Alpha here, and then, "Oh, Chris, do you want to do faith studies?" "What? Am I gonna talk?" "No need to talk, you don't need to talk." And he tricked me again. Okay, if I don't have to talk, then it's fine. But of course, I had to talk, right? But I got comfortable as the weeks went on.
Actually, before I told my wife, Chris, that I want to become a Catholic, I asked Father Justin, how do I tell her? He just said that, whatever brings you closer to Jesus Christ. And for me, Catholic faith made me really closer to Jesus Christ. And that's what I told Chris.
Well, I would like to thank my husband who got me curious into the Catholic faith. If it's not for him, I won't even be curious about what Catholic teaching is. Now, knowing a little bit about the basic Catholic teaching, I say it makes sense. It makes sense what we do, the sacraments, everything makes sense now. And I'm so happy. And I just like to thank God that he became a Christian and then we have this long journey together.
In 2 weeks, we are going to have our 5th annual Christ the King Challenge. So here's our relationship diagram. And we asked the question in 2 weeks, have you chosen to make Jesus, to place him at the center of your life? Because there are 3 ways we can fundamentally relate to Jesus. Either he's outside of our life, a part of it, or he's at the center. And that requires a decision, a lifelong commitment. And after we make that decision, we're going to ask everyone to fill out this card, just like we did last year. So if it's me, I would circle yes. Jesus, I have put him at the center of my life. But for the second question, I'm not going to check it off because I have not done it in the past 12 months. I made my decision when I was 16 years old. Now let's say I'm Deacon Andrew. I'm going to circle no because I don't love Jesus. And then at the bottom, I'm going to circle yes, because I do want Jesus to be at the center of my life. When we love Jesus, the sins of individual Catholics no longer affect us. They don't affect our love for the church because she is still his body. Since we're talking about the Basilica of St. John Lateran, I want to talk about a scandal involving this basilica of Our Lady of Peace in Côte d'Ivoire. So this caused a lot of criticism in the 1980s because the president of the country who decided to build this, everyone knew he wasn't doing it for Jesus, he was doing it for himself. So he was so vain, he even put himself into one of the stained glass windows. So everyone knew it's kind of a joke. And he asked Pope St. John Paul II to come bless this beautiful basilica. And the Pope said, I'm not going to do it unless you build a hospital next door. And so the point is, this beautiful basilica was built with the wrong intention. But it still today gives people Jesus in the Eucharist. And even if St. John Paul II had not done the right thing, that would not change the fact that Jesus still protects the church from teaching error. We mentioned for the past 2 weeks that Matthew Leonard is coming. He's coming on December 7th and 8th. That's a Sunday and a Monday. He's an incredible speaker. So here now is an invitation from Matthew.
Pablo, this is Matthew Leonard. I'm looking forward to coming to be with you guys on December 7th and 8th for a parish mission. And this is going to be focused on the interior life, what Jesus Christ himself calls the one thing necessary. And guys, when the second person of the Most Holy Trinity says there's one thing necessary, we got to pay attention. So what is it? Well, it's that relationship we have with him. So we're going to talk about things like prayer, so vocal, meditative, and contemplative prayer. Not just what they are, but how to do them so that we can grow in relationship with them. We're also going to talk about the 3 stages of the spiritual life that most Catholics have never heard of, but once you see them, they give a path. They give you direction in your interior life, and they show you what everything is ordered to. So we're going to unpack those. We're also going to talk about what we call our divine destiny. And most of us don't realize that the offer that's on the table from Jesus Christ is something that should take your breath away. It is the jaw-dropping public secret of the Catholic faith, which is nothing less than our participation in the divine life of Jesus Christ. So we're going to unpack all of this stuff in our parish mission. I really hope you will come and join me. I'm really looking forward to being with you guys. God bless you, and I'll see you in December.
Okay. So we have 180 people signed up so far. We do want to pack the church. So you have the registration cards in your pews. If you want to fill them out before you leave, up to you. But please register if you want to come before Saturday, because if we don't pack the church with ourselves, we'll start opening it up to other parishes so that everyone can benefit. One of the stories that Matthew is going to share is about how he became Catholic. So he was raised a Protestant Christian, and he went from church to church to church. He was always picking and choosing what he agreed with. And then he realized, I need to know, what does Jesus teach? And that led him to the Catholic Church. And it even led him, it didn't happen all at once. It took a long time. But it led him even to believe things that he formerly thought were completely wrong. He started to believe them because he trusted the church. Jesus loves us perfectly, and he desires that one day we will all place him at the center of our lives. And hopefully, whether immediately or over time, our relationship to the church that he founded will be one of love and trust. So, to love Jesus is to love the church.